evening, everyone. Oh, am I on? Okay. Good evening, everyone. How are you tonight? Look at all of those beautiful faces. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. What do you think of our new digs in Sam's Chapel? Pretty sweet, isn't it? Yeah, I'm pretty excited to be able to host our 4th annual Women in Leadership Speaker Series here in Sam's Chapel. So thank you again for joining us this evening. As with any event, it takes a village behind the scenes to organize and host. And Women in Leadership isn't possible without a few folks who make all the difference in the world. Our president, Dr. Matt Thompson, thank you very much for always championing us, removing obstacles, and being so supportive. Thank you. My boss, Provost, Dr. Damon Kraft, in the back, I think every year I talk about how he always talks me off the ledge, and we're still consistent. We're still talking me off the ledge, so thank you. Thank you for that. He's been a phenomenal support for us as well. I'd also like to thank Bridget Weiser, and I don't know where she's at. Oh, thank you, Bridget. Oh my gosh, your support, your encouragement, your resilience, and your eye on the goal is phenomenal. Thank you so much for that. I'd also like to thank the committee. If you were on the committee, would you raise your hand so people can kind of know? We didn't have a committee this year. No, we do. They were great, so thank you so much. And then I also want to do a shout out to 3 of our male students, Easton Hunter, Jalen Peterson, and Grant Dye. So those young men stuffed 300 swag bags for us. They helped organize this morning, and they've just been a tremendous support. So I told them I'd give them a shout out, so thank you. As we close out Women in History Month, I want to remind you that the Women in Leadership Speaker Series is about you. The mothers who nurture the next generation, the entrepreneurs who break barriers, the teachers shaping minds, the caregivers pouring love into their families, the dreamers who refuse to give up. Every time a woman overcomes, rises, leads, or loves fiercely, she is making history, every time. Not for fame, not for recognition, but because she dares to show up in a world that often underestimates her. Some of you may feel hesitant, afraid of judgment, or unsure of your own worth. You may have been silenced in the past, your ideas dismissed, and your contributions overlooked. But I am here to remind you and tell you your voice is valuable, necessary, and powerful. Your voice matters in the boardroom. It brings innovation, insight, and balance to decision-making. Your voice matters in the classroom. It challenges assumptions, sparks critical thinking, and inspires future generations. Your voice matters in the community. It advocates for change, builds bridges, and fosters understanding. Your voice matters in your home. It establishes boundaries, nurtures relationships, and creates a safe haven. Your voice matters in the political arena. It shapes policies, demands equality, and drives progress. And your voice matters in every aspect of your life because you matter. Do not let fear hold you back. Don't let anyone diminish your worth. Speak your truth, even when your voice trembles. Share your ideas, even when they feel vulnerable. Raise your hand, even when you doubt yourself. The Women in Leadership Speaker Series honors everyday warriors, women balancing careers and family, women fighting silent battles, women building businesses, and women standing tall in their truth. You are history in motion. Your voice is your power. Use it boldly, use it unapologetically. Your voice matters. Our first speaker of the evening, I'm super pumped to introduce her, is the one and only Lucy Larson. Lucy, So that's pretty cool. Thank you for bringing the fan base, Lucy. That's awesome. Lucy is the founder and co-owner of Action Travel Incorporated. It has been since 1990. She is a proud graduate of Brown Mackie College. Lucy has served both as a Salina City Commissioner and Mayor, along with her role as a former Saline County Commissioner in District 4. She is a passionate volunteer for Theater Salina and was on the board of directors for 2 terms. Lucy has shared 43 wonderful years with her husband, David, and they are blessed with 2 daughters and 3 grandchildren. Please welcome Lucy Larson to the stage.
Well, I kind of felt like the Academy Awards, you know, when they win something and they're in the front row and they come up and they're not expecting to win. And so, but just a minute, I've got some notes. Well, I have no notes, so you're going to get what you see. Thank you, Michelle and KWU, for this wonderful opportunity to kind of tell my story, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We'll start with the ugly. I'm leaving the house today, and I break my shoes. And I did not have a chance to go get a pedicure, so I have no shoes to wear. And my husband says, no one is going to even look at your feet. Where are your eyes? Exactly where my feet are. So they may not match perfectly, but it was a last minute. You know, we're women. We improvise. We do whatever we can at the last minute. I come from what I feel is a long line of very strong, successful women. In a nutshell, first of all, when they said you had to talk 7 to 10 minutes, I went, oh no. And my daughter says, Mom, you can talk for 10 minutes. I said, that's how long it takes me to just tell one story. So, okay, I gotta condense it. So on my father's side, my paternal great-grandmother has a wonderful story of what she overcame and what she did to get through life. She had 4 children from 3 husbands, and my dad doesn't think she married any of them. So that in itself is a story. But she pulled herself up, knew she had these 4 children to raise, and in life while she was doing that, she happened to finally settle down and get a job, believe it or not, in the late 1800s for a physician, little tiny town, and she was a woman. It was a woman doctor, unheard of. So people were not very trusting to go in and visit with her because she was a woman doctor. My great-grandmother then got a job with her, helping her. And in being her assistant, you know, she had no education, very poor, lived in poverty, raising these 4 kids, and she was a sponge, and she learned all of that, so much so that as her 4 kids grew, her youngest daughter is who she ended up living the rest of her life with the daughter's husband, and the 8 kids, which that would be my grandmother, of which those kids would be my father. So my father grew up with his grandmother in his home, and she had a cure for everything. Whether you were ailing at this or ailing at that, she'd go snip a couple of leaves off a plant, or she'd go do something with some tomatoes and pineapples and tell you to drink it, and that was good. You were cured. Then her daughter, my grandmother, very strong, very opinionated, and there were many obstacles and challenges that she also had. I only have 10 minutes. One of the things I'm planning on doing when I do retire is writing a book, because these women were phenomenal, and I think their stories is what formed me as to who I am today. On my mother's side, my great-grandmother there also came across and immigrated to Texas, very poor. Her and my grandfather had like 14 kids, because back then, I guess you had children to help you on the farm. So she had a lot of mouths to feed. And of course, they had farming operations. And back then, you know, neighbors helped neighbors, and friends helped friends, and family helped family. One of the things my great-grandmother always did is cook, and she did not want anybody to ever go hungry. So she would put together things from nothing, put everything in a basket, and she would go out to the fields and she would feed the ones that she could feed, obviously her own children and then other workers that were there, knowing that they would reciprocate back to her and bring her a pig or some corn or vegetables. And so that's how they all helped each other when they were in dire straits and trying to raise children and make a living, survive. My grandmother was such a great cook that her food got into the right hands. And so one day, someone comes to her and says, "Señora Cuellar, would you like to put up a little booth at the Texas State Fair and sell your food?" A lot of people come with their homegrown watermelons and potatoes, and they show them off, obviously, but then they also sell. Would you like to do that? Well, my great-grandmother, had never heard of anybody making food and selling it. That was just absurd. But she's like, okay, I guess this must be the new way, and so I'll do that. She cooked up all her food, went to the state fair that one day, and in 2 hours she had sold out all her food. So she's like, I'm sorry, I wasn't expecting so many people to buy my food and to think that it was worth anything. So the next day she doubled up on her food, went back to the state fair. She sold out that food in 4 hours. That was the trend that started, and the next thing you know, people were approaching her saying, "This food is so good. Have you ever thought about opening up a restaurant?" Now, you have to realize this is the early 1900s. Restaurants were not what they are today. You know, people cooked at home. Nobody really went out to eat. So my great-grandmother, again, was like, this is just the weirdest thing I've ever heard of. She did have a lot of obstacles and had a lot of problems because people would look at, she was this tall, and people would look at her and say, what is she doing in a man's world? We need to talk to someone that really counts. Well, of her 12 or 14 kids were the oldest boys, like 7 in a row, of which one of them was my grandfather, my mother's father. They stepped up to help their mother and say, hey, if this is a way that we can make extra money, let's do it. So what started out as a little cooking thing at home, taking it to the state fair, grew to a multi-billion-dollar industry in Texas. They had chains of restaurants in 4 or 5 states. It was a wonderful experience for my great-grandmother, who remained humble, her and my great-grandfather, to the day that they died, never leaving the house that I remember fondly as my great-grandparents' house, drove the same car. Everybody else was, all the uncles were in Cadillacs and, fancy cars. No, not them. They were just they remembered how they grew up. They remembered what they didn't have. And they were not going to go live in that mansion on the hill or drive the Cadillacs. They were perfectly happy with what they had. I was proud also that several years ago, they opened a new exhibition at the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C., and it's the American Food Revolution. And there is a separate, whole exhibit for the Mex-Tex Revolution. And my family, my mother's family, has a whole exhibition there with old-time advertisements and menus and things like that from that time. So early on, I kind of thought my great-grandparents or my great-grandmothers were strong, my grandmothers were strong, my mother was very strong, opinionated, vocal, none of this, I shouldn't say, you're not going to tell me what to do, but, that kind of an attitude. So I thought, I'm probably going to be in that same pattern. So when you know that talking is not a problem for me, I would say, I think talking is a prerequisite to be in my family. I might as well do something with my voice. And they would say, but Lucy, we know some of your siblings and your husband, and they're quiet. Your youngest daughter is really quiet. I'm like, yeah, it's because they don't have time when they're around me to get into sense wars, so that's probably why they're quiet. So early on, I had that in my head that I guess I can have a voice. I can remember just a handful of times, because I am 100% Hispanic and very proud of that, but I don't look the type. So because I don't look the type, I guess I blended in. Because I am a travel agent, I got to travel many countries where they always thought I was one of them. In Egypt, they thought I was one of them. In Israel, they thought I was one of them. Went to Scandinavia, they didn't think I was one of them. So I feel like that's the stereotypical pattern that I have had to endure. As Michelle, when she introduced me, said, I have had my business for, 35 years. I was on the commission, city commission, and then the county commission. Being a woman has been a little difficult. There are still the stereotypical thoughts and opinions out there, and I just try to change that. And want to tell women going forward that if you do have a voice, never be afraid to use it. Women need to support women, and you do have a support system. Everybody says, you know, is she a leader? She a leader? Are you a leader? I don't think I'm a leader, but I'm a great follower, and that makes you a leader. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Yes, it did. Wow, this is so cool. Thank you, Lucy. Okay, our next speaker is Christy Northcutt. Christy is the Lindsborg City Manager, and since December 2021, Christy has been passionately steered Lindsborg as the city administrator, following a significant tenure as Senior Director of Community Relations in Anthem, Arizona. There she oversaw a large team of employees in the area of public affairs, legislative affairs, business development, customer service, special events, and conference center management, as well as serving as the head of the world-renowned Anthem Veterans Memorial. She was often seen at the Arizona State House testifying on behalf of her city on issues of water rates and supply. Prior to her work in Arizona, she was on the team that planted K-State's Olathe campus. First working with Johnson County leadership to pass the CJERT sales tax. Prior to that, she also previously served on the staff at Bethany College and the Salina Public Library. Under Christie's leadership, the city of Lindsborg has fully renovated its public safety center, secured a $10 million KDOT bridge removal project, generated nearly $2.5 million in grants, expanded the electric substation, completed a floodplain project, opened a $3.5 million public-private childcare center, continued to build out a new housing development, and added an outdoor fitness park. Christy has dual bachelor's degrees in English and Communication from Bethany College. She also has dual master's degrees in Organizational Leadership and Psychology from Baker University. She is a certified public manager with distinction through the University of Kansas and a certified public power manager through the American Public Power Association. Christy is married to Adam, who owns Spellbook Games and Comics in Lindsborg, and together they have 2 grown children who also call Lindsborg home. And they recently just added a new member to their family, a St. Bernard puppy named Winston. Please join me in welcoming Christy to the stage.
Gosh, I forgot that I said that I got a puppy. That's such a highlight when I get to talk about my puppy. I could just do that for 10 minutes, but I'll give a little bit more background. Thank you first for having a Bethany College graduate speak at Kansas Wesleyan. I appreciate that greatly. My sister did go to Kansas Wesleyan, so we love the Coyotes, so all good. I wanted to just start by telling you something that I'm going to refer to often in my presentation today. I use the metaphor that I often got a sandwich that I didn't order. And that's going to be the name of my book someday, Lucy, when I write a book. But what I mean by that is that a significant part of my story and how I found my voice was having a small child, a 6-week-old child, at the same time that my mother became terminally ill. And so at 23 years old, I was thrust into being a new mom and also being the voice for my mother. And so that kind of pours through me as I tell my story. So if I mention that sandwich, that's what I'm referring to. I could start with my family history as well. There are many significant stories of powerful women in my history, in my family, and I often do talk about their influence on my life. But today I'm going to talk more about how my parenting story and my career and my parents gave me my voice. So my high school and college experience were kind of the formative years for that. I'm sure that I was a strong leader and had a big voice when I was a child, but I don't remember that, so I start with high school and college. That's where I really began to see the essence of leadership. It was where I was in band and theater, I was in clubs, I was the editor of the newspaper. I got to be involved in these really transformative things in school. And that is where I began to see how important it was to speak up, to get involved, and to help people around me. Fast forward to when I was 23. Here's where the sandwich ordering started. When I was actually 22, I lost a child. And this is where my story turns a little bit dark. But I didn't really talk about that until about 10 years ago. Because at the time when that happened to me, I went back to work the next day because I was not given sick leave because I wasn't sick. And I wasn't given parental leave because my child hadn't been born. And I wasn't given bereavement leave because the child wasn't a child yet because of the age at which the pregnancy ended. And so that was very formative for me, but I felt like as a woman and as a mother and somebody who had been through that, I kind of lost my voice or wasn't given one. I wasn't able to advocate for myself, for my health, for what had just happened to me. So that stuck with me until I had my first child, my son. And so many people say, I don't care if I have a boy or girl as long as it's healthy. Well, sometimes the baby isn't healthy. And my son was born not breathing, and I had to watch as they gave him CPR and bring him back to life. And I think about that often because I think about how he literally didn't have a voice. And I had to watch as doctors resuscitated him and gave him the tools that he needed, gave him what he literally needed to find his voice. And I think about that often because sometimes we have it in us, but we can't use it until somebody pours it into us literally. And so as I advocated for my child who did recover, but he ended up having significant health issues throughout his life. He's doing very well, but he, for many years, I had to be his advocate and his voice. But as I mentioned when I started, when he was only 6 weeks old and barely out of the hospital, barely out of NICU, we got the call that my mother had been taken to the hospital, and she was diagnosed with a terminal illness that she ended up having for many, many years and fought so hard. But when my son was 6 weeks old, she was put on life support. And my father turned over the power of attorney rights to me because he felt like he couldn't make that decision, that he was too close to it, that he couldn't make a decision about whether or not to keep her on life support or not. So with a 6-week-old baby in my arms who had just gotten out of the hospital, I made the decision to take my mother off of life support. And so my father gave me that voice and told me that I needed to speak up for her because he couldn't do it. Well, if anybody knows my mom, and a few of you do in this room, you know that you take her off life support and she just like woke up. I mean, it was like, so I made that decision to essentially end my mother's life, and then she woke up. And I told her that I had done that. I didn't hide it from her. And she's like, well, that's okay. You'll get other chances. Okay. I did. I got several more chances throughout the next 20 years. And so my mother was a fighter, and she always gave me crap about that. But also, that's a whole nother story. Well, anyway, so as I'm dealing with my mother's illness and helping to be an advocate for her, because many people of her generation didn't understand how to advocate for themselves in the medical world. And so my father didn't know. He would go to appointments. He didn't know what doctors were saying. She didn't know what doctors were saying. So I had to be the interpreter. I had to do the homework. I had to educate myself about what was going on with her and what she needed to help manage her medicine, her lifestyle, and all of that to keep her alive. There was a little bit of guilt associated with that I needed to keep her alive now that she had woken up after I shut off her machine. But so that all took place. And then my daughter was born. Once again, I had a baby in NICU. So at this point, I had a 3-year-old that I was caring for, and a mother that I was caring for, and a newborn that was in NICU. At that point, it became very clear to me that my entire life was going to be using my voice for the people around me that I cared about. When my son was 5 years old, I had to file a suit against the Insurance Commission with the state of Kansas. I had to call Senator Jerry Moran and tell him that I was being denied medical care for my son. They were telling me that it was preventative medicine. And I said, yes, it's preventing him from dying. He needs this medicine. And they told us no. And so I did it anyway. And so my son got the life-saving medication that he needed, but the insurance wouldn't pay for it. So I was at the State House in Topeka, and I was at the Insurance Commission, and I was in doctors' offices, and I was wherever I needed to be to make sure that my son got the care that he needed. I ended up having to file bankruptcy because I made that decision for my son to keep him alive and not, care that the insurance wasn't paying for it. That decision changed the trajectory of my life, but it also gave my son a voice. Because at that point, he realized how important it was to stand up for yourself and the people that you love. And at 5 years old, he was watching me do that. And we then moved to Arizona. I'm going to skip a lot of my career moves here because of time. But we moved to Arizona, and Michelle was telling you some of the things that we did there. Part of the reason that we moved to Arizona was for my son's health. I had to choose that path and abandon my parents because I needed to be with him and to do what was best for him and his health. So I spent a lot of time then doing things over Zoom and phone calls to help take care of my parents, but I was focusing on my son. And I had a career there where I was advocating for my community, for water rights, for water supply, for things that are really, really hard in Arizona that you don't think about. But I had my children with me at the State House in Arizona, and they were watching me do that, and they were watching me advocate for my community, and they were watching me speak up for the people around me and for something that was so critically important in our lives, our water. And that was something that really changed my children for the better. So fast forward to Lindsborg and where I am now. I took all of the experience that I had from my career and my family and poured it into my career in Lindsborg, to my job there, into my team. I, for the first time, created policies in Lindsborg to allow leave for my employees for bereavement, for miscarriage, for stillborn, for birth of their children. They had never before had that. And about a month ago, I got policies passed for my employees to be able to have that in their lives. So everything that I have done in my career and with my family has given me the opportunity to then pay it forward and give it to my children, give it to my employees, give it to my community. Something that isn't on the slide, I see you, Michelle, I'm not ignoring you, but I'm gonna take 30 more seconds. Something that isn't on the slide is that I recently accepted a job at the University of Kansas to be the director of the Public Management Center. I was speaking at a conference in Wichita about women in public administration, doing much like what I am today, and they came to me and they said, we need your voice at KU. I now get to use my voice, my stories, my children get to help me. I get to take all of the experience that I've had to now pour into public servants across the country through KU. And that is something that I couldn't do if I hadn't had these formative experiences in my life. So I will end real quickly with a quote from Martin Luther King. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things that matter. So my advice to you is just never give up, never be silent about the things that matter. Your family, the people that work for you, the people that work with you, your communities, all of this matters, and you have the opportunity to make a difference in their lives. So never, never, ever be silent. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. I want you to know you're actually a proxy coyote because of her sister, and I don't know, her sister is Patsy Stockham. So, yeah, you're proxy coyote. Just understand that. Okay, our next up we have Robin and Julie Cates. Robin and Julie are sisters who opened a paint-your-own pottery studio called On the Pot in downtown Salina in 2002. They have been helping people of all skill levels create ceramic masterpieces for 22 years. And I can attest to the skill level. I would be at the lower end. In fact, we have nothing out to even show it for it. But the main focus of their business has been to become a place in the community that is vibrant, welcoming, and accessible for all people. They also have a successful vinyl sticker business that they operate on both the retail and wholesale side markets. They teach classes for their industry, and Julie creates original artwork that she sells at the River Festival and at a gallery in Kansas City. Please help me welcome Julie and Robin Cates.
Hi, friends. Well, let's see. We were super excited to be asked to do this, and I will tell you that we planned what we were going to say while we were cleaning our roof today. It's a long story. But I will tell you that we found our voice very early in life because we are the children of entrepreneurs who are the children of entrepreneurs. We are the third generation in our family of people who own their own business. We grew up in the back room of Jim's Chicken. We learned how to cook chicken, make coleslaw, and bake beans and mashed potatoes at ages 2, 3, and 4. We know how to take care of people. We know how to serve a good meal. And we were raised up in that life of how do you care for the people of your community. We were embraced at a very small age by this community, and we knew somewhere in our hearts that it was important for us to find our way back.
Except that we didn't want to.
That's right.
We went to college and we were not coming back. Fast forward to jobs that, we thought it would be cool to have jobs that paid us. You know, like a paycheck, they had to do it every month. But then,
and they gave us things like 401ks.
And retirement plans and health insurance. Come to find out, those things were not enough. We were working really hard for someone else, and it wasn't making our lives any better. And so we decided to leave those worlds and come back. Well, we were going to come back to Manhattan. We won't lie. To be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
But they were already getting a paint-your-own pottery store. And so my dad said, I think he had been planning all along, you know, you already have a plumber, an electrician, and you already know people in Salina, so maybe it would be cool to open in Salina.
So we were standing in the middle of Taco Bell in Manhattan, Kansas, and my dad said, what would it take to get you to Salina? And I said, well, I want a downtown business. I want a building that has a black and white check floor and a glass block countertop. And he said, okay, let's go see what we can find. And we left Taco Bell in Manhattan, and we drove to Salina, and we pulled up in front of 111 North Santa Fe, and it was nighttime. And I peeked in the window, and there it was, a black and white checkered floor and a glass block countertop. And we signed a lease in about 3 weeks.
Yeah, it was a 5-year plan in December of 2001. It happened in 5 months because Bennington State Bank said, why don't you bring us your business plan? And surprisingly, they gave us the money.
And I said, are you sure? And we opened a business. And really, we thought when we opened our business that we were going to sell pottery to the world. We were going to help people be creative, and it was going to be about the pottery. That's really what I thought it was. The funny part about that is I had not seen a kiln except for one time before one got delivered to my store. Julie was the creative one. I do the spreadsheets. And I was sure that that was what this business was going to be about. What we were shocked to find out is that our business has very, very little to do with pottery. Our business is about creating a place where people feel like they can have fun, where they can enjoy themselves, where they can be with other people, and that they can feel like they have a home in downtown Salina. That is the voice that we carry in this town. We are a place where people feel at ease, even when they're doing something that is completely out of their comfort zone.
Yeah. We ended up finding our family. We don't have a huge biological family. We have my parents, and we have a few aunts and uncles and cousins, but
And some of them are crazy, and not in the cool way.
Not in the cool way. But we found our family on the pot, and we found our Amy and our Angie and our Sylvia, and these people who wandered into our doors and just ended up coming back and staying around. And now we get to do fun things and live our lives with these incredible women who we met through our business. And boy, I also think COVID really forced us to find our voice in a hurry. We had been talking about doing to-go pottery for, 10 years?
Yeah.
And in 3 hours, we suddenly had all the things we needed to do to-go pottery. And we had to get online, and we had to do these live sales where we stood much like this and acted ridiculous on the internet for 1 to 2 hours every Tuesday or Thursday. And we sold pottery to people. And we ended up having friends in Ireland, and friends in England, and friends in Australia, and friends in Illinois and Wisconsin, just coming to watch
Us be ridiculous for
on
2
the
hours
internet
on the internet.
and sell pottery.
And you know what's amazing? When we closed our doors in 2020 because of COVID, Julie and I both have autoimmune diseases. We were very nervous about what was going to happen in the world, as I know all of you were too. But we didn't know if our business would survive. We had no idea how we were going to do it. And this community embraced us in a way that I can't talk to you about without crying. People showed up. People bought pottery that they did not need, and some of them never painted it.
We don't sell anything you need.
Nothing.
Honestly, I want to tell you we do, but we do not.
But week after week, people tuned in to our live sales, and they kept buying pottery because they knew that they wanted On the Pot to be around. And we knew that we were going to stay because this community cared about our voice. And I can never tell you how much it means to me. I have the stack of orders from that time still sitting in my office on my desk as a reminder for every time things get hard in business, I am reminded of the thousands of orders that were placed so that On the Pot could stay in downtown Salina even when things were hard. We have had so many mentors in our life who have stood up and helped us along the way, showed us the ropes, taught us how to be professionals. Our friend Elisa Waldman, who owned a studio in Kansas City, said, yes, let me teach you how to do this, and she did. We have a friend, Teresa Johnson, she owns 10 businesses, two of them multi-million-dollar businesses, and she collects them like cats. And she stood by us and she said, you guys can do this. You can diversify what you do. You can add this first stationery, then sticker business to your life that will continue to add revenue to what you do so that you can continue to do the things that you want to do. We've gotten to travel. We've gotten to speak at conferences all over the nation. We're getting ready to go to England and speak next year because of the women who lent their voice to us and taught us how to be entrepreneurs. I can't end this conversation without saying that my parents work every single day in our business alongside us as retired people.
We used to work for them.
And now they work for us. My mom loads our kilns. My dad does all of our handyman work because they understand how hard it is to be out there on your own trying something that you don't know if it'll work. And every time I question it, and every time Julie and I have the, I don't know, do you think this is going to be okay? One of them turns to us and says, we're going to do it together. It's going to be just fine. And you know what? We have a 100% track record of getting out of it alive.
So far, so good.
Not everything works, but we've learned that the best thing we can do is call every new thing that we do an experiment. We don't take chances, we try experiments. And if they don't work, we throw it away and we try a new experiment tomorrow. I hope you guys will do that too. Thank you.
Wow, isn't this the coolest event ever? Seriously, golly, I love this event. Okay, our next speaker is Margaret Dixon. Margaret, she also brought a fan base, which is awesome. Margaret, originally hailing from Russellville, Kentucky, has led a life marked by significant contributions to her community and professional growth. In 1988, she relocated to Fort Riley, Kansas, and in 2004, she moved to Salina, Kansas, alongside her partner, Bilois Moffitt Jr. Margaret is a proud, did I not pronounce it right? Oh, yes. Margaret, and I'm sorry if I didn't, Mr. Moffitt. Margaret is a proud mother of 4 children, 2 sons and 2 daughters, and is blessed with 7 grandchildren, comprising of 6 boys and 1 girl. She holds a Bachelor's of Science in Healthcare Administration with a certification in Healthcare Management from the University of Phoenix. Her dedication to continuous learning and excellence in her field is evident from her academic achievements and her professional involvement. Presently, Margaret serves as the president of the Salina, Kansas Juneteenth Committee and is also the president of Altrusa International of Salina. She is also the Loyal Lady Ruler of Ashley Washam Epps, Assembly Number 85, Order of the Golden Circle, Prince Hall affiliate, and a member of St. Tabitha Chapter Number 75, Order of the Eastern Star, Prince Hall affiliate. Her leadership extends to past her role as let me say this again. Her leadership extends past in her role as a past chairperson of the Grant Committee of the Salina United Way. Margaret finds joy in reading, solving crossword puzzles, volunteering, and dancing, which is reflected in her vibrant personality and passion for engaging with her community. Her life's journey is a testament to her commitment to service, leadership, and personal development. Please welcome Margaret Dixon.
Thank you. First and foremost, I would like to thank my Heavenly Father, whom through Jesus Christ makes all things possible. I would also like to thank Michelle Case, the Women in Leadership Symposium, and KWU for this opportunity. I am very honored to be here this evening. First, I would like to say a little about myself is that as a survivor of domestic and sexual abuse and bullying, as a woman, you will deal with this in some parts of your life. Bullying comes in all forms. It can happen in the school, in the workplace, online, in your home. And as women in leadership positions, we will have to deal with bullying, and not just from men, but also it can happen from women. When confronted with bullying, I did what Jesus instructed in Matthew chapter 5, verse 38, by turning the other cheek. Well, sometimes turning the other cheek doesn't work, and sometimes you have to speak up and out about injustice. Sometimes turning the other cheek can be hard to do. It can bring some things out of you that you may not be used to doing. So what I would do is, as Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 and 6 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. So trusting in the Lord and my faith is what helped me to speak out for myself. As women, we need to know our worth. We must persevere and hold on to our integrity. So be true to yourself first and foremost, and don't let anyone take that away from you, which they can't, because you're the only one that can give it up. The one thing by staying true to my core values of following the golden rule, as stated in Matthew chapter 7, verse 12, do unto others as you would have do unto you, is the way I've always lived my life. I've always put myself in the other person's shoes before I said anything or before I did anything to them. And so I found my voice by trusting in my God and giving my battles completely over to him, which is what Philippians 4:13 says, that I can do all things through him. Bullying is a pervasive issue that affects individuals across various stages of life. It is an aggressive behavior that involves imbalance of power or struggle. Bullying can be verbal, physical, or psychological, and it can occur in different environments, whether you're at school, your work, online, in your home, and it is a profound effect on the victims. In my journey, I have encountered bullying in many forms. It was not limited to the schoolyard. It also extended into my personal and professional life. The psychological trauma from domestic and sexual abuse compounded the effects of the bullying, making it a formidable challenge to overcome. My faith has been my cornerstone and my resilience. And in moments of despair, I turn to the scriptures for guidance and strength. The teachings of the Bible provided a sanctuary for me, a place where I could find solace and hope. As Matthew chapter 5, verse 39, which states, turning the other cheek, it taught me the importance of forgiveness and patience. However, I also realized there are times when it's necessary to stand up and speak out too. I mean, you can only take so much, right? Proverbs chapter 3, 5 through 6 advises us to trust in the Lord and not rely on our own understanding. This scripture became my mantra. Anytime I had an issue, I would always pray about it. I would always put him first, and I would always wait for him to give me the answer. Doing that gave me the strength and the courage to confront my fears and to advocate for myself. It was not an easy journey, but through unwavering faith, I found the strength to persevere. As women, understanding our worth is paramount. Society often undervalues our contributions, but we must recognize and assert our value. Perseverance and integrity are essential qualities in this endeavor. Our integrity is our moral compass. It guides our actions and our decisions, and no one can take that away from you. You're the only ones that can give it up. The golden rule is stated in Matthew chapter 7:12, reminds us to treat others as we wish to be treated. It's paramount that we adhere to this principle because it creates a positive and respectful environment around us. Integrity and respect are intertwined. They form the foundation of our interactions with others. Finding my voice was a transformative experience. It involved trusting in God and relinquishing my battles to him. Philippians 4:13 encapsulates this journey. I can do all this through him who gives me strength. This scripture reinforced my belief that with God by my side, I could accomplish anything that I set my mind to. Speaking up for oneself is also an act of courage. It's about asserting our rights and advocating for justice. As women in leadership positions, we have a responsibility to lead by example. By speaking up against bullying and abuse, we not only protect ourselves, but we also pave the way for others to do the same. No one should face adversity alone. Building a supportive community is vital. Surrounding ourselves with individuals who share our values and beliefs can provide immense strength and encouragement. Membership and networking with other women in leadership can create a powerful support system. Sharing our stories can also be a source of inspiration to others. By openly discussing our experiences, we break silence that often surround issues of bullying and abuse. Our narratives can empower others to find their voices and seek justice. In conclusion, my journey from being a victim to becoming a survivor and an advocate has been marked by faith, perseverance, and integrity. Trusting in the Lord has given me the strength to confront and overcome my obstacles. And as women, we must recognize our worth, hold on to our integrity, and stay true to ourselves. By doing so, we can create a positive impact and inspire others to follow. And at this time, I would like to thank my better half, Valois Moffitt Jr., whose patience and love gave me the strength and courage to trust and love again. Thank you.
So good. Oh my God, thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, our next speaker is Dr. Courtney Mason. Dr. Mason is Assistant Professor of Communication Studies at Kansas Wesleyan University. She is also a KWU alumna in 2014. She recently earned her PhD from the University of Utah, where she focused on rhetorics of health, medication, and disability. Her research considered the roles that the visual world plays in structuring the social, legal, and personal meaning of humanhood. At KWU, her courses encourage students to critically engage media and public speaking to use as tools for social good. Please welcome Dr. Courtney.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Dr. Courtney Mason, and I am here today to talk to you about the importance of, well, today. You see, as it was mentioned, I am a communications professor, and that means most people know me best as their public speaking teachers, right? I have many other accolades, I promise you, but that's the most important one to many of them, and today to me. And that's because of days like today. I have to say, as someone who spent a significant portion of my life dedicating to training in, competing in, and teaching public speaking, it is an immense pleasure to see a room focused on the thoughts and voices of women. You might be surprised to learn, but there is a pronounced gender disparity in public speaking. And days like today are proof that we are taking account of that disparity and moving towards addressing it. For me, this issue is very personal. As a young woman, I was so anxious and shy that I didn't speak to anyone. It worried my parents and concerned my teachers, who could see that I was bright, but worried that I might never be able to fully express myself. So what did they do? They put me on my high school speech and debate team. There, I was forced to do that horrible task, public speaking. And that choice, and the lessons that came from it, fundamentally changed my life. Public speaking transformed me. It gave me a way to talk about my passions, my theories, and my feelings confidently. And that confidence translated into my career as it brought opportunities for me to head to my master's and PhD. It translated into personal opportunity when I met my partner, and now could navigate conflict and speak up for myself in our relationship, public speaking was the push that I needed, and in my opinion, that many young women need, to learn how to confidently and capably express themselves in a variety of settings. And none of that would have been possible without the women who encouraged me through this. Dr. Megan Hegeman, Professor Barbara Marshall, Dr. Kathy Denker, and Dr. Robin Jensen, all of who encouraged me to continue speaking and performing throughout my education. I tell you this because I need you to understand that today matters. Women speaking matters because women inspire young women, and young women inspire little girls. And little girls need to be able to know and see the potential in their futures. Any one of us, any one of our friends, any one of our daughters could be the next to stand in front of us and share their voice, but only if we make room for them. So, as a way of showing my appreciation to the people who arranged this opportunity, I want to share with you more context about what this gender disparity in public speaking is, some explanations as to why it occurs, and a few very simple suggestions that any of us could take to help make room for the voices of women. Let me start by providing some context. When I say that there is a gender disparity in public speaking, what do I mean? Well, first of all, we know that women are less likely to be invited for formal public speaking engagements than their male counterparts. A study by NITRUR in 2018 found that men were offered nearly twice as many academic colloquium requests as women, even controlling for academic rank and discipline. Forbes reported a similar statistic in industry with 48% for professional speaking engagements in 2019. So we know that women are speaking in formal public speaking settings less often. We also know that this is partially elective. Women turn down public speaking opportunities more often than men as well. DePaula found that 25% of women are more likely to turn down speaking invitations than men. You are okay. Nature's Women in Science found a similar frequency in 2013. So, women for a long time have suffered from a combined disadvantage in public speaking. They are selected less often and accept less frequently. Why does this matter? Because, as I promise every student that walks through my classroom door, public speaking matters. Fallow and Stevens wrote in 2000 that public speaking skills strategically increases visibility and personal reputation for professionals, providing a clear competitive advantage on the job market. Furthermore, speaking anxiety is associated with negative impacts on personal, academic, and professional achievements. This is likely because one of the primary reactions to public speaking anxiety is avoidance, which can limit a person's involvement in advancement opportunities. So why are we talking about women specifically? We've already learned that women are less likely to be selected for and more likely to decline formal speaking engagements, but let's talk about why. First, women are selected less frequently because they have the power of selection less frequently. That previously cited NITRUR study found that when a committee is formed to select a speaker, the more women that are in the group, the more likely the group is to suggest a woman speaker. In fact, committees with female leadership were 49% more likely to select women speakers than those led by their male counterparts. When there are fewer women in the group, men are much more likely to be selected. So we know that if we want women to be selected for public speaking engagements, one of the easiest things we can do is fill those groups that select speakers with more women. And second, women are turning down speaking engagements largely because they have more speaking anxiety. Carter et al. Found in a date that's covered by a staple that women were 2.5 times more likely to speak less likely to speak in formal settings than men, and that women's primary reasons for not speaking up more were related to public speaking anxiety. This is reflective of other findings that showed that women in general are more likely to experience speaking anxiety, and reducing speaking anxiety is one way to increase the likelihood that women will say yes to speaking engagements. So what do we do about it, Dr. Mazon? We can't make them less anxious. Now that you have a better idea of why there's a gender disparity in public speaking, I have a few really easy things that we can do to help address it. First, if you have the power to, bring women into the decision-making process. If we want more women speakers at formal speaking events, we need to add more women to the committees that plan and arrange those events. This is my moment to thank everyone who organized today's event because you are part of the solution. Taking time to make specific and intentional room for women's voices is a necessary step to finding equality at all levels. Second, to everyone in this room, encourage the women in your life to say yes. Encourage the women in your life to be heard. One of the most effective tools for reducing public speaking anxiety is actually public speaking itself. This is a form of exposure therapy. The more you experience the anxiety, the more likely you are to understand how to navigate it. And then the more we can be heard, the more we can make room for other women to do the same. A really beautiful piece of research published by Olivietti et al. In 2018 exemplifies this. Did you know that women experience less speaking anxiety if their mothers spoke in public often? Female role models matter, and public speaking can provide young women the blueprint they need to confidently speak of. If there is a female exemplar in your life, and you can be the female exemplar to a young professional woman, they are more likely, significantly more likely to say yes. You don't have to be a mother, you can just be a friend, but be the example for someone and encourage those around you who do the same. I really want us to celebrate today because it represents an incredibly valuable, proactive, innovative, and supportive group of people who are making space for women's voices. That is the first step. Public speaking gender disparity, I hope, is soon to be in the past, but if we can't ask the people who aren't being asked, and we can't encourage those who are struggling to speak up, how will we ever be able to hear anything valuable? Because as I tell every student who walks through my classroom door, everyone has something to say, especially women. So, thank you.
Yeah, her students love her. She's a keeper. Thank you, Courtney. Okay, our next speaker is Annie Grievous. Annie is currently a Saline County Commissioner serving District 12. Annie proudly earned her degree from the Social Work Department at KWU in 1987. She then embarked on a professional journey in community corrections in Salina, advancing from probation officer to director by 1993. And she dedicated herself to this role until retirement in 2022. Throughout her career, she contributed to various boards and legislative committees, including her position on the State of Kansas Governor's Sentencing Commission. Recently, Annie has also taken on the role as Assistant Grant Director at Kansas Wesleyan. She's a very busy lady, and we love her. Please help me welcome Annie Grievous.
Well, I'm going to tell you, everybody that spoke so far are just beautiful women, and I just think you're all great. I want to say thank you to Kansas Wesleyan, and Michelle's a large part of that, but I always find so much grace and kindness at Wesleyan in numerous ways, and they're such an important, integral part of our community that I just always feel real emotion for that. So, I'm up here in the microphone, and what I usually do when I grab a microphone is I start singing Gloria Gaynor's I Will Survive. Once I was afraid, I was petrified, thought I could never live without you by my side. I will survive. So that's kind of my mantra. If my sister's watching, Mary, I love you. She's not dead. She's living. She's watching, I think. I want to say that because that was terrible. I'm going to get a call. Okay, so I had a great childhood, you know, as everybody, and I grew up with a very strong mother. She quit college 1 year in to get married and raise kids. She did it all. I mean, I don't ever remember not seeing her at a track meet. She hated the heat, but by God, she's at those track meets and stayed with us. She taught piano lessons. She was at every event. And she was very outspoken. Democrat, and a very Republican community. And I'm telling you, she got berated by the old men, and they were old men, they weren't women. And she got questioned about all her politics and all her ideas, but she kept going. And when we were old enough and in college, she went back to school, got her teaching degree and taught until she couldn't do it any longer. So grew up with that beautiful woman and had the opportunity. I, in college, did not know what I wanted to do. It was all about partying and fun, and that's what I was going to do, until someone introduced me to social work. And I really didn't know what you could do with a social work degree, but I knew I loved what they were saying. Empathy, care, compassion, concern for the marginal communities. And I loved that. And I loved the peers that I was in school with. And I loved the instructor and my advisor. And so I knew that this is what I wanted to do. I had no idea what I was going to do with it afterwards. I bounced around domestic violence shelters, crisis lines, rape and violence against women. I did a lot of those kind of things until I got my opportunity to be a probation officer. And at that point, I was still learning the ropes. I met another huge person in my life that was such a great mentor and advocate, my husband, Bill. Bill is beautiful. And one of the things about Bill was he let me carry my career. And we had 2 young children, and he was a busy man himself. And he allowed me to, never made me feel uncomfortable or funny about going off for a 3 or 4 day consultation opportunity where I could better my career and get my name out there a little bit more and do some more work, while he stayed home with a 2-month-old and a 3 or 4-year-old. I'd get the videos of them standing on the kitchen table singing Garth Brooks with a guitar and a cowboy hat. And I just thought, oh my gosh, you know, what a beautiful person to be in my life, that I had another advocate in my partner. And so feel very, very lucky for that. Throughout the career of probation, worked my way up to be director and had to learn how to write grants. I'm very vocal, I'm loud, I'm obnoxious. But grant writing isn't quite that easy. It doesn't want to hear my vocal, obnoxious voice. It wanted to hear the fluff words and where are the values in what you're doing and what are your outcomes going to make. And so as frustrating as it was, being turned down several times in the first part, I learned to write grants. And our community corrections program was funded solely on grants and continues to be almost all funded by grants. And I'm very proud of that and excited that it continues to be that way. More mentors came into my life as I became director of community corrections. I had 2 judges who I'd love to name, but I'm not going to, but 2 beautiful judges that accepted the fact that we needed to come to where the clients are, meet them where they are. Don't look at them as the criminal. Let's call them clients. Let's see what we can do better for them. And so we established our drug court. We established pretrial. And they opened the doors for me to take that opportunity and be one of the first in the state of Kansas to offer those programs, so that we were investing more dollars and effort into them to be better citizens to our community, which is so necessary. Roadblocks. And again, I'm loud and obnoxious, but one of the things that I have is anxiety, and I lack self-confidence. And I fight that almost every day at different events, different kind of things. I love the public speaking because I had to force myself, as being a part of the governor's appointed sentencing commission, to be a vocal speaker in front of the legislatures and speak to them and fight for the dollars we needed and fight for what was right. And every time I was asked, I played that game in my head. Nope, I'm going to turn this one down. I'm not going. But I learned, as I aged a little bit, matured a little bit, that the only way I'm going to get through this and do this is if I continue to do it. And so I did it over and over. I wouldn't call it heckling, but there were a few men from other states that would say to me, how can you call them clients, they're inmates? How can you care that much and want to throw those kind of dollars at a program that's no guarantee that they're going to stay clean? I'll tell you why. You know, I'm going to do it because they deserve the respect. They're human beings, and we're going to do this. And so I continued to grow in that ability and learn that I didn't have to crumble when somebody did that to me. And I'm going to say it now. It was always men, always white men, white older men. And I don't mean that to be mean, but that's what it was. They always, in my opinion, took their privilege and put it over what was important for the human life. And it made me angry. And that would be another thing. And I promised Dr. Thompson I would not get angry or overuse my anger. But I am an angry person. I tend to lead often with some anger. And as long as I don't punch anyone or trip anyone or kick anyone, I'm thinking I've made it through a beautiful day and I'm owning it. So, so when I retired from community corrections after 35 years as the director, I again found Kansas Wesleyan to be one of the most beautiful, gracious opportunities in my life. And Dr. Thompson allowed me to come on and work part-time and writing grants. And that kind of jump-started another whole excitement world for me because I love writing grants, but I also wanted to be a part of Wesleyan. I wanted to be a part of this community. And part of that confidence that I gained even further, because I'm almost 60, so confidence continues to grow as you age. And I wanted to run for county commission. And people say that's probably the craziest thing you should do. It just doesn't make sense. But one of the gentlemen that was on it wasn't running. And Lucy and I were talking earlier, and Lucy and myself and Sherry Berrigree are one of 3 women over the course of 110 years to be on a county commission. And so I was gracefully elected. But I was told by several men that a woman shouldn't be a county commissioner. How do you know what equipment to buy? And how do you know what gravel needs to be laid down on certain roads? And how do you know if you're going to asphalt a road or gravel a road? I don't care, because I know how to learn those things. I'm not an idiot. I can do that. And that was my response. My response was, by golly, I'm going to learn it, and I will learn it. And you know what? I now know what a Duraplast is. I'm not going to go into any detail, but believe me, I know what that is. So what I tell you is to stay a little angry in a subtle way. Stay confident as you can, and embrace your anxiety and your self-confidence. It's okay, but carry on. Push yourself and be there. One of the greatest gifts was when I was appointed by the 2 governors, a Republican and a Democrat, to serve on the Sentencing Commission, a 10-year appointment, and it was developing policies for the legislation. And I so enjoyed that, and my dear friend Michelle's standing up. So I'm going to end with, I'll meet you all later to sing Gloria Gaynor's song.
Okay, our final speaker of the night is Sydney Mitchell. Sydney is a full-time student at Kansas Wesleyan, where she is an English major and a communications and sociology minor. After graduation, she plans on attending law school and pursuing a career in law so she can better serve Midwestern communities in need. Throughout her time at Kansas Wesleyan, she has been a part of the varsity cheer team and the game day team captain. She also helped found Salina's first college NAACP chapter, where she was voted the chapter's first president. She also serves as the NAACP's Kansas Youth and College Chapter President, where she can prioritize her passion of social justice in Kansas. When she isn't doing these things, she loves to write poetry, read, listen to music, watch movies, work out, and spend time with her favorite people, her little brother and her mom. Please help me welcome Sydney Mitchell.
Well, hello everyone. Happy Women's History Month to all you beautiful women. Like she said, my name is Sydney. I'm from a small town in Kansas. I was born in Liberal, Kansas, moved to Phillipsburg, Kansas around my first grade. We'll get more into Phillipsburg, Kansas later, so keep that in mind. So a little bit about me. I'm an English major. I love studying the arts. It's one of my favorite things in the whole wide world. I mean, I tell my coach all the time, who's sitting over there staring at me right now, that I'm here for school. I'm an athlete, but most importantly, I'm a student. So I see some of my professors here. Some of them have helped me find this voice, public speaking. Courtney Maison is an amazing mentor for me and for other women in her communications classes. I'm excited and I'm honored to be here because activism is my purpose. That is what my heart is filled with. That is what brings me joy. And that is the voice that God has given me and the path that God is taking me on so far. So this year's theme of Your Voice Matters is particularly interesting for me. This is something that I know now my voice matters, but it is a recent development. I went 17 years being suppressed and feeling like what I had to say does not matter, not to anybody, not to my teachers, not to my professors, not to coaches, principals, superintendents. I've never felt like that, and it wasn't until my senior year of high school where a woman in my life made a monumental decision for me because I was too scared to make it myself, that I realized that my voice does matter. So, today I'm going to tell you my story about finding my voice. My journey is a testament to the important realization that a lot of women have and some women never have. Embracing your truth can lead to a beautiful impact on the world. So starting with my early life, like I said, I grew up in Phillipsburg, Kansas. I met some beautiful people there, but I also met some not so beautiful people there. I struggled through this small town being the only person of color, more specifically, the only woman of color. So that meant going my whole life feeling like your hair is too big, you are too loud, you are too excited, you are too energetic, and you are too much. But I'm here to tell you, you are not too much. You are just where you are supposed to be, and you are right where you need to be, okay? So, through this struggle, I didn't have a lot of female mentors. I didn't get paid a whole lot of attention. I was kind of brushed under the rug because I was that difficult student. I didn't like to talk because I didn't think it mattered what I had to say. I didn't like to talk to others because it didn't really matter. They weren't really listening. So there was one woman in my life specifically, my mother, who is a single mom. Hi, Mom, if you're watching on the live stream, wherever you're at, I love you. And my little brother, who's actually 6'4", so he's not really little anymore. But those two people listened to me always. And I knew that when I went home that night, I would have someone to listen to my voice, and that to them, it did matter. I'm sorry, my story makes me a little emotional. We'll get there. My junior year of high school, my mom made the decision for me after a pretty not great event happens in high school. Throughout high school, first grade through junior year, I was bullied pretty hard. Kids would pull at my curls and tell me that I looked stupid, or that I joined a wrestling team and they told me that I was the help and I belonged in the kitchen making their sandwiches every day. I was the regional champion, so I didn't understand why they were telling me these things. Thank you. But my mom saw that this was affecting me in every aspect. My attendance from freshman to junior year went from 100% to 75 to 50%. I was rotting in my bed every single day. I did not want to go to school. I did not want to learn, which, if you know anything about me now, is my favorite thing in the whole wide world, is learning. So feeling this way, feeling like my voice didn't matter, was terrifying. So my mom moved us just across the way, about 30 minutes, to Alma, Nebraska, where I met beautiful teachers and I met beautiful students. And I was still the only black girl in the whole school, but the environment that they fostered was inclusive. They included me with open arms. I joined the volleyball team, which is something I quit as soon as I got to high school. My grades went from F's, C's, D's to A pluses in every single one of them. I was taking AP classes, I was taking college classes, and I was ready for college when it was time to come. I was named the cheer captain after a week after my tryouts, and I had a teacher that cared. Her name is Courtney Stotler. Shout out to you, Courtney Stotler, because she read my poetry, and she encouraged me to start public speaking. This is where my love of public speaking and activism started. And she told me that I should perform my poetry for the people of Nebraska, and that my voice in the Midwest is something that is monumental and needs to be heard. And that year, I won Best in the Best, and I was the state champion for poetry out of all classes, A through C. So that was amazing. Because of these women in my life, I learned that I have a voice and that it does matter. And there's a few key lessons that I learned from that small town that didn't accept me, moving into Kansas Wesleyan, which is very similar to my Alma High School, where they welcomed me with open arms, and they saw my energetic personality and potential, and they had encouraged me to use it. So some lessons I learned is that sometimes it is not you. It is your environment, and it is the people that you are surrounding yourself with. Another important lesson I learned is that you should surround yourself with the people that see your potential. And I know sometimes you don't want to listen to your mom because, Mom, it's my senior year, all my friends are going to miss me. You should listen to her anyways. And what happens to you does not define who you are, but rather shapes your future of success. You should make that jump because you deserve it, because you deserve a better life and a happy and more fulfilling life. So since my mom transferred me to a high school in Nebraska, there's a few things that I did, like win a state title, be named the cheer captain. And then since being at Kansas Wesleyan, there's been so many opportunities given to me by beautiful men and women that believe in me as a woman of color. I was voted the vice president of MCSU my freshman year of school because Pastor Smith saw something in me that I didn't quite see in myself. Like I said, I didn't find my voice until I was 18 years old, which is a little late for some people. I was the founding president of Kansas Wesleyan University National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, which was a beautiful thing to get to be a part of. And I'm now the serving president for all Kansas college and universities. So I represent people from KU, K-State, anywhere in the Midwest that is, I think, 6 and under. I don't remember off the top of my head. But I've been put in mentoring positions where I get to mentor young women, and I get to teach them that their voice matters. You are not too loud. You are not too big. Your hair is not too much. You are not too much. And I continue to instill in them they are important. My activism has spread everywhere, from Nebraska to Kansas to Topeka, all the way to the White House, all the way to Las Vegas, Nevada, where I got to meet with President Joe Biden and Attorney Benjamin Crump, who is the #1 civil rights attorney in America. Thank you. So I'm here to tell you, ladies, that you deserve to be in that room. It doesn't matter where you come from or what has been thrown at you or what adversity that you have faced. You deserve to be there. I am a living and walking testimony how important your voice is. Know that what happens to you should empower you and not constrain you. Turn your negative experiences into ambition. Create spaces where all voices are valued. Speak up for yourself. Support other women the way women have supported you. And be kind to the impressionable young little black girl sitting in the corner. She could change the world one day, and she might even run for president. Thank you.
You guys, that's our students. Thank you, Sydney. You were fabulous. Thank you so much. Please join me in another round of applause for all of our speakers tonight. Oh my gosh, so good. And just a few things. In your program, you will find a QR code to scan to take the Women in Leadership survey. We really appreciate your feedback. Next year's date is Thursday, March 26th, 2026. And again, thank you all for making this such a special event to honor women. And please do not forget to take one of the 300 swag bags with you as you leave. Thank you so much for joining us.